What is up, God Gamers? In today's video, I'm going to take you guys through what I think are some of the best emblem users for each emblem. And to do that, we're going to confer with the stats. Us TFT players, we love stats, don't we? So I'll be covering not every single emblem, but some of the big ones like Ionia, Sork, maybe Gunner, Challenger, Sharima. Some of the ones that are very prevalent in the meta and are very like game-changing whenever you put an emblem onto units. So we're going to be conferring with the stats, but also, you know, the stats don't tell the whole story because that really depends a lot on what is currently meta. But I will be going through and, saying who are some of the potential best users as we go through. So let's start with Ionia Emblem. And again, we're not doing all of them. I just want to do more of the more impactful ones. So yeah, let's do it. So Ionia Emblem, remember, it gives you attack speed. That's the Ionia bonus that you'll get from it. You also get the regular bonuses that Ionian units get, right? You get that mana effect whenever you become enlightened and all that good stuff. And so looking at some of the best users, the play rate highest is Kaisa right here because she's the easiest one to use, as well as Ophelia. So let's look at the placement rate. Now, placement rate, Sona is very interesting, but her play rate is extremely low. So it's probably you're just in a very winning position whenever you put this on her. But attack speed is nice on her, but I would not think of Sona as the best user. Rise, again, when you look at stats like these, legendaries are always going to perform very highly. So don't read too much into the legendaries. Senna obviously is goated, man. Heimerdinger, goated unit. Rise, goated unit, right? And so Vel'Koz, look at the play rate. It's super low. So let's go back to highest play rate and look at some of the best ones that actually work with those comps. Now, Kaisa, Aphelios, and Callista all make so much sense. And that's because Kaisa is a challenger. And there are two challengers that are in the Ionia build. Aphelios makes a lot of sense. I play this one a lot, especially if I'm playing like Jhin reroll. I play Jhin reroll occasionally whenever I have the angle for it. And especially when you're running that, you get an Ionia emblem. Aphelios is your man to put this on. Or if you're running 6 Ionia comps and you're running like a Jhin early game carry, you just move the items later. You just remake the Jhin, do 6 Ionia. Aphelios is great. Callista, same idea with Kaisa. Usually Callista is just holding the item until you can get it onto Kaisa, or you have a Callista 3. That's why you see this Callista, the placement rate is higher than the Kaisa, but look how low the play rate is. This is when you end the game with this unit, right? With it on there. If you're ending the game with Callista holding the Ionia emblem, you probably have a Callista 3. So that's why you'll see it rated a little bit higher right here. Herrick makes a lot of sense because he fits perfectly into this composition at being a Bastion. And especially if you're going to be running Aphelios with him, you get that Targon buff, all that good stuff. Run Soraka, boom. Easy play right there. But Herrick does not actually benefit a lot from the stats. And then obviously legendary units are always going to perform. So I think some of the best users, some of the real best users are going to just be Kaisa and Aphelios. I feel like that one's pretty obvious. And then other than that, your item holders are going to be the people you find along the way. You know, friends we find along the way. Akshan, Ashe, it's just the same traits. Just play around Deadeye and Challengers and you're good to go. All right, now we are going to our next one, Sork Emblem. Sork Emblem, and you know who I like with Sork Emblem and I like with Invoker Emblem? I like Senna because her AP scales on that. I think Invoker is a lot better than the other one, than Sork, but I just wanted to mention that real quick. See, as you can see, Senna right here, because her AP is so insane. I mean, Senna is just such a good unit, but again, ignore the legendaries. Ignore the legendaries. Warwick is interesting that he pops up, but look how low the play rate is, right? We're on top 4 rate or placement, average placement. Let's get something that actually has a decent one. Now, Jarvan makes so much sense, and the reason why Jarvan makes so much sense, one, he is AP, but he doesn't deal a lot of damage. He really does not. But he deals a lot of AoE damage, so when he gets his takedowns, those things will spread. But the main reason why he performs so well in the data is because he is the Demacia dude. You run a lot of Demacians whenever we play Sorks. Very easy to fit in. All you have to do is play Sona, Demacia dude, and you're carrying a Lux, right? All those units fit perfectly in this build, and Jarvan is just the best unit in the game, so you always play him, right? So he's going to be great there. Let's see another one that has a pretty high play rate. Sona, for the same reasons. Makes complete sense. You're playing Sona and reroll multicaster, or you're playing on a vertical Sork build. Demacians are going to be almost always going to be in your build if you're running a Lux carry, or they should always be. Lysandra makes some sense here because Lysandra is just a great unit. Nice plug-and-play unit. Kaisa is fine. The way I like to use Kaisa with Sork Emblem, and I've done this a few times, when I'm playing vertical Sorks, and I'll have her item hold it until I want to move the item to, like, I don't know, let's say like a Heimerdinger or a Senna or something like that. When I get to end game, I'll use her as an item holder to get to a better carry usually. But if you end with her, it's a pretty good top 4 usually. Cassidy makes a lot of sense just as an item holder. Gwen, whatever. I think those are all pretty much a big one. So in synopsis, yeah, legendary units obviously are going to be great. And then Jarvan is good. Jarvan and Sona are great because they fit naturally in the build. And I think Lysandra is decent on there as well. She can fit pretty easily into the build, as always. Very easy to fit invokers. All right, let's go to our next one. Our next one, I don't feel like Gunner Emblem is really much to talk about. You just slap it on Urgot and call it a day. I really feel it was like how you play Gunner. Or you just put it on a Heimerdinger or whatever. I really don't think there's much to talk about here with Gunner. You just really get the emblem because Zeri is really strong, and you just play units that naturally fit in that comp. But Urgot's going to be the best because he scales with AD. Okay, Challenger Emblem. Now, this one's a little bit more interesting, right? Because we get attack speed. Who doesn't like attack speed? Everybody loves attack speed. And let's go for the placement rate right here. Obviously, ignore the legendaries. Senna's performing super well, obviously. You know, great, awesome, very cool. Let's find something that has a decent play rate. Bel'Veth. So Bel'Veth makes a lot of sense because you can get Void for free, right? Just running a Bruiser frontline with Kaisa, boom, Void for free. Also, Bel'Veth just scales off attack speed, so great, fantastic. Ahri. Now, Ahri makes a lot of sense. I've ran Challenger Emblem on Ahri because it's whenever you're playing Challenger comp, whether that be 4 or 6, you want to have Enlightened active, and you're going to be playing Yasuo and Aurelia, right? Or if you drop the Aurelia, and you're able to fit in Ahri, then you run Yasuo and Shin. And so Ahri is just a great item holder for this, and she'll generate a lot of mana. She'll be attacking a lot. Now, she doesn't like really, she does have to, her cast time does take a long time, so she's not going to be like dealing a bunch of AD damage with her auto attacks, but it just helps her get her third ult off, and she fits perfectly into the build. So that's why we're going to be seeing him there. Pretty much ignore the legendaries. Nasus doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Let's see if another one makes a lot of sense. Karma is probably for the same reason that we have Ahri on this list. It just fits naturally in your build, right? If you're running Ionians. Shin, again, it's just you're better off putting the emblem on someone else rather than the Shin. But if it has to be the Shin for your Ionia, I guess that's fine. And that's why we see it right there. But yeah, putting on something like Aphelios can be good too if you could just fit it in your build. You know, units that scale with attack speed, Zeri, but it's just really hard to fit those units and get their synergies active as well. I think Aphelios would be a decent user as like a random plug-and-play unit. Maybe you run some Targon with that. You know, run a Taric with your Shin. You're playing around that and get Targon active. So I think Aphelios makes a lot of sense, and then everybody else that's performing decently in stats right here makes a lot of sense. But Zeri, it's kind of hard to make work because you really want to get her traits active, whereas someone like Aphelios, you don't really need his traits that active. So let's look at some more. Sharima is another big one that we're going to be taking a look at here. And Sharima vertical is very strong at the time we were making this video, so we'll see a lot of people using it. Now you'll see Jarvan has the highest play rate, and that is just because Jarvan is a strategist as well as the best unit in the game. So he doesn't necessarily use Sharima super well. I think when you have Sharima on him, he can use it well because he can cast twice. If you can get your Jarvan to cast twice, that is worth a lot of value, but he's not going to like giga carry your fight, right? But let's look at some other ones. Pretty much ignore the legendaries. Not high enough play rate here. Aatrox is interesting. I know he's a legendary, but I just like to mention him because Aatrox, he has a hard time in this set. Like, he can be really good and then really bad sometimes, but Sharima makes a perfect sense for him. It gives him extra healing, gets him extra HP. These are all stats that he likes. And he's a juggernaut, and so is Nasus. So we love that. Okay, let's look at some other ones. Let's see if any of them have decent play rates here to combo with that. Shin, again, Shin is fine for sure. Has pretty good stats here. It's because he is a Bastion. So if we're going to be running our other Bastion, and he is an Invoker. He's a perfect plug-and-play unit into the Sharima build. So this makes a lot of sense to me. Makes him very tanky. Buys time for your Azir. Jarvan, the same reason, right? Garen has a decent play rate there. But in general, when you get a Sharima emblem, it's going to be best on your tanks because when you're playing Sharima, you want to buy time for your backline Sharima to kind of carry the fight, right? So that's going to be people like your Azir, people like your Akshan if you're playing reroll Akshan, that sort of thing. So yeah, typically just goes on your frontline units that fit naturally into the build, Jarvan, Shin, that sort of thing. All right, Slayer Emblem, and this is one I tested quite a bit because I was forcing a Katarina build because I wanted to make a guide on it, but then I stopped forcing the Katarina build because why play Katarina when you can play that Echo build that's out there with that also side carries a Katarina, so it just didn't make much sense to keep going down that path. But Katarina is really good with this item, and that's because the build is just naturally just fits in there because when you play Katarina, you want to play Zed. Zed is a Slayer. When you're playing Katarina, you want to play Noxus. And you know who's a Noxus Slayer? Your boy Kled. So she just fits in very naturally into the build, and she gets damage off very quickly because she drops her 3 daggers. So she, you know, and she's critting. She's doing all that stuff. You love it. She gets them low, and you know it. You love it. And Darius makes a lot of sense for the same reason, just because Slayers and Noxians just kind of go very well together. I really like Yasuo on it as well. You know who I really like with it? I really like Gwen. Where is Gwen? Where's Gwen? Gwen. Where's Gwen? Where's Gwen on the stats, guys? Am I an idiot? Am I an idiot? But I love it with Gwen. When I was forcing this build a lot, I loved it with Gwen. Ignore the legendaries. Senna always is going to be great. She's just such a beast. Zeri makes a lot of sense. She has to execute stuff as well on her kit. It's kind of hard to fit her with Slayers, though, I think. Where's Gwen, man? Oh, Gwen is a Slayer. Guys, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I was thinking about when I was playing the... Oh, I'm not editing this out. I don't care. I'll be an idiot. I was thinking about whenever I play Slayers, I always get really hyped when I hit the Gwen. I am so stupid. But anyways, the Noxians are the best units, really, because those are the ones that fit naturally with the build. But, you know, Set can make some sense, right? Because he's Ionian and you're playing Slayers. You're going to be playing Zed, especially if you're rerolling Zed builds. I feel like a dumb idiot, guys. But anyways, just ignore what I said about when she is a Slayer. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, yeah, I just get really excited when I hit Gwen. Okay, let's get to... I don't think Deadeye is that important. You just throw it on the random unit that fits into your build. Bastion, you really just put it on whatever frontline... Like, you see Viego here. Every time I played vertical Bastions, it's just whenever I've been... re-rolling Trist, and then I just put the Bastion emblem on him, right? And then I play vertical. So that's why you'll see Viego right here. He's probably the best user in the current meta. But you really just put it on frontline damage dealers or just units like Jarvan, that sort of thing. Sejuani, you know, Giga tanks, high-value tanks, that sort of thing. Let's look at... Invoker emblem. Invoker emblem. And the best users of Invoker emblem are Ahri and Senna. I play a lot of Invokers, guys. So let's check it out. Okay, let's look at this. Place rate. Sion, Senna, Aatrox, Heimerdinger, obviously the legendaries, but Senna, dude, Senna is so insane with this thing because when you play Invokers, you need to buy a lot of time for your Karma, your Soraka, and if you're carrying Ahri in Invokers, which is what your in-game board inevitably wants to be, then you need someone who can help you buy time, and Senna does a really good job of doing that. Ahri is great because she is a carry. She's the in-game carry of the Invoker board along with Karma, and, you know, sometimes you can side carry Soraka. Look at some Cassante makes some sense, right? You can second row him and he doesn't take aggro and he gets his mana up really fast, gets a lot of kick outs, and then obviously he's a Bastion. You can play him around with Shin. Makes a lot of sense to me. Jarvan is fine, but you just want to make sure when you play Jarvan with the emblem, you don't want to have him frontlined. You want to have him second rowed for the same idea as Cassante because he doesn't need to take damage to get his ult off. So Jarvan is a good item holder, but you always eventually want it to be on Senna or Ahri, usually, unless you have a Jarvan too and you just can't move the items, right? Let's see if there's any other ones that kind of stick out to us. Ashe makes some sense, but I mean, just whatever. I mean, she's an item holder, guys. You shouldn't end with Ashe. Yasuo has a decent play rate, but no, no, not Yasuo, guys. Sejuani, no, I don't think so. You actually want just Sejuani to be tanking. You know, she doesn't have those big CC abilities. You actually want her to be tanking, so it doesn't really make sense to give her extra mana gain. Now, Aphelios is not very good with the item, but Aphelios sometimes ends up being your in-game carry, being an in-game carry within the Invoker comp. But it's important that you don't actually put the emblem on him. You put it on Senna or Ahri in that build, or like a random Jarvan until you can hit one of those units, right? So if you end up running Aphelios and Invokers, which you end up doing that a lot if you have AD items, he does not hold the emblem. That's what's very important. Let's see if there's any more that we wanted to talk about. Man, I feel like such an idiot for that Slayer bit, but I'm keeping it in the video, guys. I don't care. Shadow Isles. Let's take a peek at Shadow Isles because that's oh, we're definitely gonna look at Rogue. That's the one I was thinking about Gwen. So let's talk about this one. This is the one I get really excited whenever I'm playing Slayers and I get a Rogue emblem. It goes on Gwen. Okay, this is what I was thinking of. I feel like an idiot, but it's okay. So she's the one who holds it. She's probably the best user who fits naturally into the board. You're gonna be playing around Slayers. You're gonna get your Shadow Isles active. All that good stuff. Cassante makes a lot of sense to me, even though his play rate's really low. It's just probably hard to fit him into a Rogue build usually, unless you're just playing Shin. Unless you're playing Shin, right? And you're just playing like 2 Rogue. If you're playing 4 Rogue, it's just kind of hard to play Bastions in those builds. But yeah, but he's great because he jumps to the backline, kicks somebody out, right? Aatrox, I've ran it on Aatrox, feels pretty good. Same reason for Senna, or not Senna, for Gwen. She fits naturally into the build. Urgot? Wow. Urgot makes a lot of sense. He's a Zon, and then we run Echo if we're playing Rogues usually. That makes a lot of sense to me. Getting that D-aggro feels good. Gets on the backline, shotgun Neum to the head. Darius makes a lot of sense to me for the same reason. I've ran this before because he has a Noxian. Noxians and Rogues that kind of go together. Noxian, Rogue, Slayer. It's like a tree that kind of works well together. Jumps to the backline, gets his executes. I like it on Darius as well. So be looking out for Darius whenever he's meta. He's sort of meta right now, but not really. He's just meta because Garen and Rogues are kind of meta, but not really him. But Gwen, yeah, I think she's like the premier user. She fits naturally into the build. Oh, and Yasuo is great too. Yasuo is great. He might not be performing super well in the stats, but this is a guy I really like to have it on as well. Just getting that D-aggro. It's not really about him getting on the back line because he'll jump back to the front line again, right? But just getting that D-aggro can be very powerful for our Samurai dude. Okay, we have one more in Shadow Owls. I'll just take a peek at Shadow Owls. Shadow Owls just goes on the Challenger, right? It's going to go on your Yasuo. It's going to go on your Kaisa usually. If you're going to be playing around a lot of Shadow Owls, I mean, it can go on Aatrox, something like that. It's probably going to go on your Slayers or your Challengers, depending on who you're carrying. Or I guess in the scenario where you're actually carrying a Diego, then it can go on one of your Rogues, and that could be nice as well. So let's look at the placement right here. Pretty much ignore legendaries. Zeri performing pretty well right there. That's just because Zeri is really strong, but she has a 1% play rate, so it's pretty low. We can probably ignore that one. Jarvan is always going to perform well. He's the best unit in the game, right? You just toss it on him, call it a day. And that probably makes him cast twice because they gain that mana. They gain mana gain, and then they gain a shield. So it probably allows him to cast twice. Ahri, for the mana gain is nice, but again, look at the play rate. It's super low. Poppy is really high on this, but that is just because of the reroll Tristana build. It's not like this is a broken item on her. It's just because you have a 3-star Tristana and 3-star Maokai. It makes you super, super tanky. I've ran a lot of the reroll Tristana build, and Shadow Owl's Emblem does feel very nice. It's very, once you can get that Senna in late game and make it there, ooh boy, good. And that's why it's performing so high, because if you have Shadow Owl's Emblem, it's probably because you hit a Senna, right? And you rerolled the Tristana. That's why this performs so well, so don't read too much into that. Yasuo makes a lot of sense to me. High play rate. Again, we're going to be playing around Kalista. Going to be playing around Gwen. Yasuo fit very nicely in there. Kaisa, for the same reason, fits very nice in there. And see if there's any more that kind of sticks out to us. Zed not looking so hot. Zed needs very particular itemization, so that makes sense to me why it is not performing super well. And yeah, anyways, guys, that is pretty much it for the video. Please ignore me being an idiot talking about Slayers. And this will be my last video that I will be filming from this setup for a week because I will be going out of town. I wasn't going to take a vacation, but I'm not going to tournament cycle for one, because I again will be out of town during this tournament cycle. And I originally was going to just stay home and work, but I am going to take the vacation with my family. So I will be doing that, but I will be bringing half of my setup with me. I'll bring my camera and my microphone and my laptop, not my PC. And I will still cover the patch coming up, cover some news in the space, but there will not be any more guides this week. So yeah, so just know that. And anyways, I appreciate all of you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I love you all. I love TFT.